Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. We are live. Thank you so much. A Happy New Year to you all. And in this time of uneasiness, worldwide, there is need to have deep conversations about change that is tangible for Africa and its people all over the world. My guest this week is Ghanaian economist, Dr. Adeyoti Bing-Pappoe. Welcome, Doc, to a new season. And first, can we introduce you to the guest? Wow. You are the secretary of the African Cooperative Union.
Yes, I am that, yes. The African Cooperative Union is an organization here in the UK, which is trying to sort of build an independent economic and financial base for Africans in the UK. So we have a number of programs that we do. We are basically pooling and sharing our knowledge, our finances, in order to support one another. That's the hub of what we're trying to do. You know, so everybody contributes, and then the idea is that people can borrow from the pool. We do training. We train people to improve their business practice, to understand about how to work with others in a cooperative framework. And we are also trying to build a credit union for African people in the UK.
Oh, wow. So anyone in the UK right now, as long as you are African, you can be part of this?
Yes, correct. We have a website, African Cooperative Union. People can go and have a look at it and see. That's what we are trying to do.
Okay, so it's only open to UK for now?
Yes, unfortunately, the laws require that if it's a cooperative, then it's only people who are in the country that can belong. There are various ways in which cooperatives work, and you have to be able to be present, as it were. You can't do it from afar, so that's the thing. But people then can form their own cooperatives wherever they are.
Okay,
in order to mobilize themselves where they are. That is something that I think we're going to talk about later on, not today, but at some later date. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Okay, we'll come back after we listen a message from our sponsors. Welcome back. So this week, creating a viable and integrated African economy is the topic that we want to discuss. But part of Africa's problem is its inability to see value in its own intellectual capital and products. So today we are looking at how Africa can create viable Pan-African markets and products. This is only possible if Africa and Africans can recognize value, consume, and prefer such products over imported products and ideas, basically changing our mindset. We will look also at how we can identify and develop such products. What do you think are the advantages of creating such a market for Africa? Let's begin there.
Okay. Well, I mean, the thing is that there's a simple sort of formula that one can use, which is that more or less, most people in the world consume what they produce and produce what they consume.
Yes.
In Africa, we do it the other way around. We consume what we don't produce, and what we produce, we don't consume. So if you take an African country, you say, what is its main product in value terms? Most likely it's some raw material or other, or some commodity. And it doesn't use any of those things. It exports them. And the things that it does need, the bulk of them, it imports them. But that's not a viable economy. So there's a fundamental problem there.
Yes.
And which is important for us to begin to deal with. What that means is that the things that are around us in our own environment, we don't operate as if we are living in our own environment. We don't use the things in our own environment. We look down on them, especially those of us who think that we're becoming sophisticated. The model that we use, the goal that we seek to, what we seek to emulate, is not in Africa. It's all coming from somewhere else. Yes. So the music we listen to, the clothes we wear, the houses we live in, food we eat, the fashions we dress with, the language we speak, the history knowledge we have, all of that is coming from somewhere else. And that's a dangerous thing. And so in order for us to reroute ourselves, we have to do some serious work on decolonizing, let me put it that way, on getting rid of those old ideas of not seeing ourselves through other people's eyes, but seeing ourselves through our own eyes and seeing other people through our own eyes. And those are the important things. And so that touches on a whole range of things. It touches on sometimes some sensitive things. For example, the religions that most African people follow are not African religions. They may say what they like, but they're not African religions. The languages we speak, you and I are speaking, we're not speaking an African language. If we were two Chinese people, we'd be speaking Chinese or Mandarin, yes?
We don't have a language centralized.
Yeah. The foods we think we should have for breakfast, if we think we're sophisticated, we want cornflakes or porridge, yes, or Quaker oats. But those are not African foods, and so on. So it accumulates, what we consider to be high fashion is to wear a suit, and so on. So these are all the things that we need to unpick. If I can just say, right now, you just said Happy New Year. Who is New Year?
Yes.
It's a Roman New Year. It's not a Chinese New Year. It's not an Indian New Year. It's not an Ethiopian New Year. It's a Roman New Year, but we think it is the New Year. It is not the New Year. It's just the Roman New Year, which we have taken or has been given to us.
Yes.
And we've accepted it as the standard. So these are the things that we need to unpick.
Have New Year.
And they have economic consequences when we don't unpick them, which we shall explore.
Yeah. Do we even have our own New Year?
Well, this. I mean, you made a point which may have been true, and this really needs study. That because it's quite possible that in Pharaonic Egypt, they had a New Year. I have to plead ignorance, as I was saying, that this process of decolonizing is something that we all have to do.
Yes.
Once we start on it, we all have to do for a long period of time. So it's quite possible. I am happy to admit that there's a Pharaonic New Year which was taken, maybe modified, maybe abandoned, and so on, and it's coming back to us as something foreign, which actually it might be ours from the very beginning. That's very possible, as you say. And as I was saying last week, and when I was, just sort of summarizing the things last week, that there's a way of looking at human history as African history. Very often people say, "Oh, African history, it begins with colonialism," and if it doesn't, then you just say pre-colonial.
Yes.
But what does that mean? So post-colonial is only 150 years maximum. So, and that's what we learn. And then pre-colonial is everything before that. No. Africans populated the whole world, right? From Africa, Europe, Asia, the Americas, everywhere. These are Africans who left Africa and they went and populated the whole world. You could argue that the whole world is an experiment, is an African experiment. Hmm? And then one group of these Africans who had over a few thousand years changed, left their part of the continent, or they left their part of the world, and then came and dominated all other peoples, including Africans.
Yes.
Yes, restructured our economies, restructured our societies, restructured our politics in order to suit their purposes. And then they made laws that solidified the processes so that it would be hard for us to move away from them.
Yeah. So
to some extent, that's what we're living with now. So that's the legacy that we have, you know. So you may be right, like I said. So this idea of, you know, some of the things we think are foreign, some of them might be our own, but a lot of them are not our own also.
Yeah. So I know we jumped right into the topic that we are supposed to have this week, but I wanted to take, so that we can take the guests that are watching right now back a little bit into what we talked about the last conversation we had, just short brief, so that they can catch up to what we're talking about now and where we go in this conversation.
Well, essentially, I mean, the point that is being made is that as I said, we left Africa, we settled around the world. One of the people that settled around the world, Europeans, got to a point where they were able to go to the rest of the world and basically divide it up among themselves. Okay? I talked about the two treaties, the Treaty of Tordesillas, the Treaty of Zaragoza, that divided the world into two. One part was allocated to the Portuguese, the other part was allocated to the Spanish, after which they started fighting one another over these foreign territories and also among themselves at home. Anyway, they were able to, as a result of this process, they were able to go into other parts of the world, sometimes take over other people's countries completely, right? The Native Americans will never get their country back. The Aborigines will never get their country back, right? The Maoris will never get their country back, all right? We were kind of in between, right? We lost a lot of, we were enslaved, captured, transported, made to work for free for 400 years from other people. But at least we kept the continent as ours.
Yes.
Even though we lost a lot of our culture.
Yes.
And the Asians did even better, right? They both kept their continent and kept a lot of their culture.
Yes.
So if you look at the world, from left to right, you see that Asia, in a sense, went through the colonial period best, we second best, and worst of all were the Native Americans.
Yes. Yes.
Who lost everything, who have lost everything. So what we're saying is that we are now in a phase where we are trying to unpick what was done in those 500 years. But it's hard because the rules that have been made after that period are designed to preserve those who are in power in their power.
Yes.
And it is hard to move out of that power. But that's why we need to be able to use our mental strength.
Yeah, decolonization.
Decolonize ourselves, yes. Yeah. So that's where we are. We are trying to correct something that has been 400 or 500 years in the making.
Yeah. You know, when you're saying that, I can't help thinking that maybe part of why the disruption was more effective in Africa than in India maybe is the fact that we lost human capital, taking people and bringing them here versus in India. That probably disrupted us.
I mean, yes, to have, I was reading something the other day that to have the number of people we lost, you know, depending how you count, but at least more than 22 million people over this period, you know, and this physically lost. And then to have the consequences of the process of losing them brought about many social and political dislocations within the society.
Yes.
And which Asians didn't go through, you know, and so that is to a large extent, yes, I think a big factor in the degree to which we are kind of we carry the scars, as it were. Let me put it that way, of what has happened. Yes.
Yes, and the laws that you keep talking about, does it help that we as Africans and African leaders are taking them and then just the blueprint and just put it into Africa and try to use it as it, and without trying to now recreate things that work for us?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is that our leaders would have to engage in a battle with these forces, and on the whole, they have proven themselves unwilling to engage in this battle. Of course, there are some exceptions. I am fortunate to come from a country where one of the exceptions was Kwame Nkrumah, who preached, not only that Africans must unite, but that they should, for example, have an African personality.
Yes.
But there are other countries in the world. He was not the only one, but I just mentioned him. But there are other countries in the world where the leaders were not concerned with this issue. In fact, they went out of their way to copy, to emulate, to internalize what had been given to them.
Yeah. The more you look European, the more you sound European.
Indeed.
The more you...
Indeed. So we have this legacy. It's still with us now, and or if you are aspirations and so on and so forth, they show this. I remember a few years ago, there was a leader of Zambia who said that all primary school and secondary school education in Zambia should be done in mother tongue.
Yes.
Many people in the middle class were scandalized. They said, "How can this be?" I want my children to be global citizens. You don't want them to learn anymore this language?
Yeah.
And that's the attitude. But you see, that kind of approach can be successful, because I quote another African leader, Nyerere, who said to Tanzanians, "You know what? All of us should learn Swahili."
Yes.
Right? And he said, but we also should learn English.
Yes.
But all of us should speak Swahili.
Yes.
It's because English is like the Swahili of the world, given that the British colonized 1/4 of the whole world. But having recognized that fact, he didn't say, therefore, we shouldn't learn our own. He said we should learn our own, and we should learn the external one.
Yes.
So this is where you become realistic and sensible and actually clever, because the other side only knows theirs. In fact, they don't want to learn your own.
Yeah.
So if you know theirs and you know yours, you're in a better position.
Yeah. So
very much so that this, as I said, the process of us decolonizing is very important. And if we said to African writers, storytellers, tell your stories in your own language and we will publish them. We'll have fantastic stories. But now you have to wait to get a degree in a foreign language before you can publish.
Or you can write.
Before you can write.
Before you can write.
Huh?
You're right.
So this holds you back.
Yeah. Come to think of it, if you're putting it that way, and I look at the way I was educated, right? I spent the better part of my first learning years learning a language versus learning.
That's it.
Because they had to teach me in English, but I did not English, because I only started learning English when I go to school. So I had to learn
the two things together, the subject and the language.
But now learning what the subject is all about. So you're right. So it's
a double burden.
Yeah, it is. But to that effect, before we move on to the next topic, is when I know that when most people go to learn a trade in China, they have to learn the language there. They're not going to teach you in English.
No.
So you have to start. You spend your 1 year fully learning either Mandarin or whatever language that they're teaching you. Then they teach you in that language.
Exactly.
Why are we not doing the same in Africa? Why don't we value our staff? Why do we have to eat foods that don't really are not our native foods, meaning we don't value ours?
This is it. Absolutely so.
Now,
absolutely so. It's a lot of work, but so there are various things we can discuss. I mean, maybe I'll say a few little bit about culture, because this whole thing can be put under sort of the heading of culture, because culture is defined in different ways by different people. But all the things that I'm talking about, we could, define culture in such a way that it covers, all these things. And just to give you
yeah, because I was actually thinking of it that way, that how can it be done when we're looking at areas like medicine, African music, music instruments, food and fashion, and perfectly culture is.
Yeah. Okay. So let me look at those individual things in a minute, but let me just say a word about culture as a whole, because you're giving it an idea of what the value of what we're talking about. Now, somebody doesn't matter who, has done some studies to try to look at the value, the size of culture in African economies. Okay. And they've come up with a figure of currently about just around 1%. Okay, so it's actually slightly less than 1% of Africa's GDP is from the area of culture, and whereas in many other countries it's much higher than that. Okay, but so if we were, let's say, to increase this cultural component of our GDP, the question would be, so who would it be for? Okay. And it would be for us. In other words, we would be, the task is that we would be consuming more of what is ours.
Yes.
Yeah? That's really the thing. More of what is ours than not, because now we're consuming a lot that is not ours. And just to put some figures. So if we were to move to a situation where, let's say, we went from this 1% of GDP, which is cultural, to, let's say, 2.5%. Yes. So today, Africa's GDP, total GDP, is around $6.7 trillion. Okay, using a way of measuring it that we call purchasing power parity. I don't have to explain that, but I just need to put that there, because otherwise that figure may be misinterpreted.
Yes.
But so 2% of purchase of this 6.7 trillion is $1.3 trillion. That is a huge amount of money. In other words, we could, by consuming more of what is ours, yes, increase by a very large quantity, right, what it is that we produce in the economy. So that's the first big issue. So in other words, we're not saying this. I mean, there's a value. One would argue that there's a value in itself for being able to, let's say, speak your own language well. Follow your own religion, eat your own food. There may be intrinsic values in this, but now we're looking at just the economic value of it, which is an addition to all those other good things that one one might consider. So there's a lot that we can have. And what is also important is that we have a large population, growing population. I'll come to that in a second when I talk about fashion. So the things that people usually say, you must produce for a growing market. Well, we are the fastest growing market in the world.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that can Africa produce and find a market sufficient in Africa without having to?
For lots of things, it is a challenge even to produce for ourselves, assuming we wanted it. So it's a big challenge, but it is the fastest growing market, and therefore we have the opportunity and the possibility of feeding it. We can ignore it, you also have that opportunity, possibility. We can ignore it.
Yeah.
Yes.
To our
You
own.
know? Yeah. Or we can have the in between, which is that we may get it produced in Africa, but not by Africans.
Yeah.
That is also a risk that we face. You have
Seems
to
to
be
be
careful of
happening.
that risk. Yeah. So,
Seems to be
but
happening.
but yeah, but in terms of producing for ourselves,
Mhm.
since we are the fastest growing part of the world, we are the fastest growing market. Any businessman will tell you, if you want a market, go for the fastest growing market.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are that already.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to look, yes, at, I mean, there are a range of things. Let's look at medicine, for example,
Yes.
for a bit.
Mhm.
So according to the WHO, around 2/3 of Africans
Mhm.
use African medicine.
Yes. Because
Okay.
we can afford anyway to
But
go
they
to.
can't afford, exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Two
Yes.
thirds of Africans use African medicine, which suggests that, so the worst case example, if that medicine is rubbish,
Yes.
if the knowledge that is behind that medicine is completely rubbish,
Yes.
then we are living long only by chance. Yes, because 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 that knowledge, yeah, yeah,
You know,
because that knowledge is doing us no good at all. Yes, it's not impacting positively on us.
yes.
The other thinking is that actually that knowledge has got some value. Yes, and it's helping us to live long and be healthy
Yes.
as a people.
Yes.
Okay.
That must be right about what we are doing.
Yeah. So the logic of it now is this. There are some people who have seen this. So now I'm going to talk about, first of all, the advantage that other people are taking
Yeah.
before talking about what we could do ourselves. So there's just one study, one group I want to mention. There's a company, UK company called Phytofarm. Okay. It was set up in 1990. What do Phytofarm do? They go around the world and they speak to ordinary people, people in villages,
Mhm.
people practicing traditional remedies.
Mhm.
And they say to them, when you have this thing, what do you do? Right? This is, so basically they're stealing intellectual property.
They're gathering information.
They're gathering information. Then with that information, they say, oh, for this, people do this, this, and this in this country. For this, people do this, and this. Then they take those things that people use, and then they get the scientists, chemists, and what have you, to analyze to see if in fact there is something that works. Okay? When they find that out, they can patent it.
Yeah.
It becomes their property. You told them, but it's become their property. Okay? So then, and they have done it in a number of examples. And so they make now money out of your knowledge because you didn't bother to think that this thing is valuable.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the best example of the thing that they did. There's a plant in which people in Southern Africa use to slim, or to stave off appetite. That's how they use it traditionally. So when they're in the desert and they're traveling for long periods of time and they want not to get hungry or not to get thirsty, they take this they chew it. So these guys worked out that this thing, it will be very good for Westerners who want to learn how to slim or who want to slim. Right? So they took this plant, Hoodia, they licensed it through South Africa in those days when South Africa was ruled by white people. And then they were marketing it as a slimming agent. And they made a lot of money. Right? It's only fortunate in the last few years, the owners of this idea have been actually took them to court in order to say that, but this is ours. And therefore we should get part of the royalties. Not some company in South Africa. Okay? And we're talking billions of dollars. Okay, so we are sitting on a mountain of knowledge that is valuable, but we don't see its value because we have been told that nothing about us is valuable. Nothing we know is useful.
Yeah.
So that's just a very, very concrete example of that kind of thing. And they've been doing it. They do it in Africa, they do it in Asia, they do it around the world. And then they patent it. Then if you want it, you're now going to have to pay them to get access to the knowledge that you gave them in the first place.
This is mind-blowing. It needs me to adjust my mind right now quickly. Because my thoughts are this. Does this not start at an institution level in Africa? The way we are educated, the way everything, the way our systems are working, so much that we don't see this when we come out of this education system. And as we go out in there, everything is geared towards telling us to abandon the ship and jump onto the bandwagon of the West.
Yeah. So this is exactly it, and there are many other examples. I mean, when I was this may be it's not a joke, but it could be, smile making. The other thing that is one of the other things that is very common recently is Viagra.
Yeah, smile making, sure.
But Africans have something that is used, I know, in Southern Africa. It does the same thing.
I've heard of many, but I don't know whether they work. I'm a woman. You tell us.
But the global value of Viagra in the world is huge.
Yes.
Why are we not using that knowledge ourselves to make something to sell, not just to ourselves, but to the rest of the world?
You know what I tend to think right now when I'm talking about, again, the institutions, how we package ourselves. I think it's probably one of the things. We don't take our stuff, go through the scientific proof that you are talking about, and package them with real information and knowledge. We still like to just take the bush, dry it, put it in a package, or even not.
Or not, yes. Yeah.
And just say, hey, take these leaves.
Yeah.
And then it takes away the value, because now there's no value added to it.
Yeah. And you see, partly the thing you make, which is really important, I think, is this, that. So who would do this? You see, the person in the village who doesn't have a BSc in chemistry. Yes. Doesn't have a BSc in engineering, cannot do this thing. It is the person who does have a BSc in chemistry and engineering who could, right? But their minds have been attuned to looking for value somewhere else. Yes. The bank manager does not consider that there may be something I could finance. From this village community.
I won't take the risk.
The person who says I want to be an entrepreneur doesn't think that there may be an idea here that I could use. Yeah. So if the entrepreneur is not thinking, the scientist is not thinking, the bankers are not thinking, and the government is not thinking, who's going to make this thing happen? Because you need all four of them to be involved to make this thing happen.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah. You need the financiers, you need the bankers, you need the entrepreneurs, you need the scientists.
Yes, and we need the people.
Which means that the whole society has to be reconfigured.
Yeah.
And that shows the extent of the scale of the challenge. Right? It's not just one small element of it. It is its thing. So, I mean, I would like to mention, for example, because that was a negative thing in a sense, but to talk about a positive thing, there's an organization which is in Senegal called Prometra. And I'm saying these things so that people can actually go and have a look up some of these things.
Yes.
And this is headed by somebody called Eric Bodoso, who has been trained both as a traditional doctor and as a Western medical doctor. So when he was growing up, his relatives showed him elements of African traditional healing. But then he went on to study Western medicine. So he has now created this institution called Prometra, which is based in Senegal, where he's combining, but based on the knowledge, the traditional knowledge.
Yeah.
So he's doing exactly the point that I was making, that they're taking the traditional knowledge and examining it.
Yes.
Subjecting it to scientific inquiry.
Yes.
Yeah?
Which
is what we need. And then using it. In fact, there's a film which has been made about him, and I would like to say so that people who may be listening might want to go and consult it. It's called The Secret Power of African Healing. This is a film on YouTube. It was presented by somebody called Andrew Young, who was famously an African-American who was the representative of the United States in the United Nations. So it's an eminent African-American. He's the one who presents this film, and is talking about the knowledge he gained. And some of the medicines, the procedures that the Prometra people are using, he took it to the American army for them and their medicine, their doctors, medical people to examine also. And they found that what they were given was efficacious, and it was efficacious for AIDS. So I asked people to go and have a look at this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here is an African organization which is too small, is much smaller than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Because if this was happening anywhere else on the continent, every African would know about this person.
Know about it. Yes.
So it can be done, and some people are doing it, but they're doing it in a little corner, unobserved and uncelebrated by the rest of the society.
Absolutely. We don't even know about them. And will this, how do you think we can integrate then into mainstream medicine and pharmacies? Is this something that we need all Africa to come into? Or if it continues to be on individual countries, is it going to see the mainstream?
No, there's no reason why it should not be done on a regional basis or a continental basis. It is up to those who are in charge of these regional entities, like ECOWAS, for example, in the region that I'm from, or SADC, in Southern Africa, or the East African Community, and so on. It's up to them, those people who have the possibility, let's say, at a regional basis. In fact, I wanted to talk about this towards the end in terms of what can be done at a regional level. But just generally to say that these regional organizations and the people who are in charge of these regional organizations could and should organize themselves so that at a regional level they can begin to discover these things. If people are leaving Europe to come and find out the knowledge, why can't somebody in Nairobi just look around the 3 or 4 countries around them to find out? Yeah? Or somebody in Lagos not look around the countries in ECOWAS to find out? Or all of them start looking, to see what they can find. Why is that not possible?
Especially with the pandemic, the way it is right now, we more so need that, especially our local medicines, because we cannot trust or wait. It's not even about trust, it's about waiting so that the people here will get first. People are getting here, and then while we're waiting to say, can you give us something?
Yes.
And we had 9 months
before
it hit us. We had 9 months to do
and then you don't know what exactly you're going to be given. This is another issue.
Exactly. I mean, but to me, that's neither here nor there. We had time as Africa to watch people is crumbling and fighting to save their people.
Mm-hmm.
And now we wait and say, hey, are you giving us something? Or hey, we can't trust you with what? Why are we waiting?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's responsibility. It's our responsibility to find something.
Find something. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think poor Cuba, have been able to find something themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Many African countries are richer than Cuba.
Because Cuba has been isolated from the world for a long time. They've become able,
right.
their own ability. They said they were isolated and they took it on.
Yes.
That's my thoughts.
And they have their own mindset that they recognize that we have to do this for ourselves. You know?
Yeah.
Rather than we're going to rely on somebody else to do it, and then we'll get it from them.
So our biggest issue in Africa is not resources. It's not the market. It's not anything but the mindset.
Mindset is a fundamental, I'll say again, fundamental problem.
To put it nicely.
Yeah. So
before we, I know we talked about medicine. Can we talk about music, because it's really, really one of the fundamental part of who we are.
That is also very important. Music, and also I wanted to talk about fashion, but we'll talk about music. Yes, well, we have all been to school.
Yes.
When you go to school and they say you're going to study music, I'm almost certain that every single one of us, the first instrument that we were given was piano.
Yeah. Classical piano.
Why? Why?
Piano.
There's no, and again, I look at, other parts of the world. You look at, if I say India and music, you won't think of piano.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think of the sitar. Why? Okay. So again, we have this problem that we have just taken wholesale, a certain perspective on what it is that is good. We have imbira, we have balafon, we have drums, we have all kinds of percussive instruments, and we have lutes. We can, and then all we would need to do is to find a way to produce these in a way that you have a scale that is consistent when you play it.
Yeah.
You can write music in any format you want. Doesn't have to be the format that most of us now learn music. You can create a different format, and there are different formats, so that you again develop your own science, your own system, of music notation and scaling.
Yeah.
There's nothing to stop us.
I think the biggest probably thing most fundamental thing we need to talk about right there is it not a case that, again, with our instruments, with everything that we do, we don't add value to them. We have this mbira that we were given the way it was, and someone else and everybody else is telling us, preserve it the way it is. Don't change it.
Don't change it. Yes, that is true.
But at the same time, if we don't change it, then it's not moving with the time, and then it becomes a thing for the museum.
Yeah.
We don't value it, then our kids don't interpret, they don't see it, listen to it, because they see other glittery stuff. But yet we can use the same instrument, the mbira, polish it to the modern, it still gives us the same sound as traditional.
Yeah, this is it. And in any event, everything changes. Everything changes. Even when I said piano, okay, I'm sure there's a certain image of piano came to your mind, but there are grand pianos, there are electric pianos, everything changes. Yes. So there's no reason that we have to preserve as you say, as if it is in a museum. Society is not a museum. Museums are museums, but society is not a museum.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yes.
Society is a dynamic place. Lots of things are happening. Everything is moving in society. Yeah.
Wow. So I was so enjoying this conversation. I didn't greet our guest. Hi, how are you? Babaka, Susan, everybody who is sharing, Hassan. Thank you, brother, for tuning in and listening in. The conversation is deep. We have to really look at ourselves as Africans in an honest way. We are not tearing ourselves, but we have to really look at the problems and why we are where we are for us to be able to solve them. Is that not correct?
Correct. Yep. Yep. And because if we don't, then we will be stuck. We will be stuck. And as I said, I mean, there's maybe in another context, we will look at this, that we can produce these things in Africa, but we will end up producing them perhaps not using African businesses. Actually, this maybe before I get to fashion, I should touch on one example of this problem, which highlights it. It's linked to fashion in a way, because I'm going to talk about shoes for a moment or two.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so and this example actually brings up a number of issues.
We seem to be having a network issue.
Is there a network problem?
Okay, I think we got a little glitch with the network.
Okay. Go on. Okay. So yes, I want to speak a little bit about shoes, and I want to take the example from Nigeria this time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there happens to be a town in Nigeria called Aba.
Mm-hmm.
And they happen to produce a lot of shoes, very fine shoes. In fact, you go on the internet, again, put in Aba shoes, Nigeria,
yes.
you ABA, you will find fantastic array of fine looking shoes. Okay. Now, but when they started, these shoes were not necessarily the best of shoes, but now they are very fine. Okay. A number of things have happened. In 2019, the government of Nigeria facilitated the opening of a shoe plant in Abuja, the capital.
Mm-hmm.
This shoe plant company was Bata Shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Bata is a Czechoslovakian company based in Switzerland. And so they are now producing 500,000 shoes each year using about 120 people. Okay. So there is a place in Nigeria that produces shoes, quality shoes. At the same time, the government has facilitated shoe production by a foreign company inside Nigeria. Okay. Oh. Instead of supporting the local producers of shoes, right, so that they could, because their shoes are good quality, that's not the issue. Yeah. It's all about marketing and presentation and so on.
Yeah.
To support them, they have now brought a competitor. And then they're calling them Nigerian-made shoes. But the company is a Czech company. So this Czech company will have developed the knowledge, will make the profits, will take the profits out of Nigeria, whilst the people in Aba are trying to do the best they can to pull themselves up with the shoemaking. Fortunately, they have the local government there has recognized their efforts and has begun to support them. But here's the thing. The shoes that the Aba people make, the shoemakers in Aba people make, are actually quite good shoes.
Yeah.
But when they are sold as made in Nigeria shoes,
yeah,
comes to the mindset, Nigerians don't want to buy them.
Buy them.
Many of them, not all of them, but many of them.
Yeah.
So they prefer some shoes which are coming from outside Nigeria. In fact, coming from some other African countries. Okay. But here's the trick. Those shoes that are coming from other African countries were actually made in Aba, exported, and are being re-imported into Nigeria as foreign shoes.
Oh my goodness.
And now they're acceptable.
Because they're coming from another country.
They're coming from outside.
Again, the mindset that we were talking about. The mindset.
And on top of that, they label them Ralph Lauren, Louis Vuitton, Calvin Klein. They're all made in Aba.
Wow.
So what's the problem with us?
Our mindset. We do not value ourselves.
So that becomes part of the part, a very good example, a sad example, actually. You can laugh at it, but it's a sad example.
I'll try to laugh.
It's a sad example of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that takes us into looking at maybe a bit more closely at fashion. Yeah. And I was saying, before, we have the largest growing population. So we've got 1.2 billion people on the continent, right? Yeah. It is estimated by 2050 we'll have 2 billion, and by 2100, 4 billion people. So again, this is a growing market.
Yes.
All these people need to wear clothes, even the poorest of them.
Yes.
Can't go naked.
Yeah.
So that opens the door to a major clothing and fashion industry.
Yeah.
Okay. On top of which, even with our 1.2 billion, 200 million of them are between 15 and 24 years of age. Young, fashion conscious.
Yes.
Yeah.
They want to be on Instagram.
Okay. The only question is, whose fashion are they going to follow? Yes.
Instagram, whatever is being peddled on Instagram. On TikTok.
So that becomes part of the issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Who are they looking at? Is it Michael Jackson? Is it Beyonce? Is it Kanye West? Who is it that they are going to be?
Yeah.
Going to be following? But the global fashion industry is worth 1.3 trillion. Actually, it's worth 2 trillion in this last year gone, $2 trillion, yes. Of which 15 billion is Africa's contribution. 15 billion only out of 2 trillion. Yeah. Still, 15 billion is a lot of money, but that shows you that there's room to grow. Okay. And the market is growing. It's growing at around 5% a year.
Yes.
So the fashion market is growing faster than the population because people don't wear. Nobody buys only one shirt or one dress. so the richer you get, the more you spend on these things. So the fashion market is growing. So we have a major opportunity, right, to do a number of things. One, that, as I said, whose fashion is it that we're following?
Yes.
Is it our own? Is it somebody else's? Right? And therefore, when we buy, into whose pocket do we put our money?
Yes.
Right? Whose skills are we paying for? Right? And which businesses are we supporting, actually? Are we giving the revenue to? Because these are all possibilities for us. And we know that there are a number of African fashion designers who are making a name for themselves internationally. But this is looking at the bigger picture and also at the message. Okay. So where do we look to in terms of the present world? Okay, we look at our politicians. how do they dress? What do they consider to be being well dressed? Our business people, how do they dress? Yeah. What do they consider to be being well dressed?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Which brings the issue with women and hair.
Well, indeed, all these issues become now pertinent because there's money attached to each of these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So these are the things that become then important, right? Because these have consequences. Either you're supporting your local producers, encouraging them to improve their skill, right? Getting to improve their business knowledge, their business management skills, their marketing skills, their networks, and so on and so forth, or you are not. So this really becomes a big thing. So this fashion industry, people will wear clothes come what may, but whose clothes will they be wearing? Who would have made them? Yeah. And this is without touching the issue of the material, the textiles.
Yes.
That are used to make the clothes, which is a separate issue.
Yeah. Because even when we do, okay, most of Africa does not have its dressing. Some has its own dressing, made national. But when you look at all that national dressing, you find that most of those fabrics, we don't even make them anymore.
There is that.
So if we on the continent had our own sense of fashion and what is ours, and then we make it in Africa, then that's a whole industry.
That is, you are talking about growth and experience and skill development and innovation. That is.
Yeah, cotton is ours. Why are we not making the adding value to the cotton? Consuming, not adding value for others. We export cotton. If we stop exporting that cotton, make it for ourselves, invest in that, why would we not have jobs?
So we can see that the problem of African development can actually be at this level is something very concrete, and it's to do with us.
And our thinking.
It's to do with us and our thinking. So I'm not saying that the rest of the world is not conniving to do various things.
Yeah.
But we are colluding in what they are conniving to do.
Yeah, but you're right, because even when I look at what is happening with the pandemic and everything, we buy into conspiracy theories more. We feed, we enjoy peddling those, making ourselves victims. And then that means we can't do anything. We're victims.
Yep.
There's nothing we can do. Can you see? It's the big people. It's them. What can we do? We're little people.
No, this is very true. So those are the things that we need to really, really pay attention to, and both it becomes the leaders, our fashion setters, our trenders. What role are they playing in our development? They don't. I think many times they don't understand, they don't appreciate that actually they are supporting or not supporting the continent's development by what they do.
Yeah. So I don't know where the hour went. The hour is almost over. And we haven't even really, I know we have more sessions coming up, but how can you just round this session for us?
Yeah. So I mean, what I would say basically is this: that hopefully we've seen that there are many ways in which we are responsible, right, for what it is that is produced within our societies, what we use, what we don't use. The key message is we should begin to use ourselves, what we produce. And I would say the first step, especially in the area of medicine, is that we need to have what people like Phytofarm do. That is that kind of a cultural audit needs to take place within the continent, where we learn, we go consciously to find out what knowledge we have, and then begin to see how that knowledge can be utilized in a commercial environment and consumed by us.
Yeah. I like the word cultural audit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. And then we can finance it ourselves because we know that it's going to generate income.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you take somebody else's money, they want a piece of it.
This is the thing that we can do, and we can organize it on a country basis, but we can organize it on a regional basis, stroke continental basis. This kind of cultural audit of our knowledge, of our human knowledge, and its commercial potential.
Yes. Thank you so much. We will meet again next week as we continue the conversation. Thank you, everybody who has been listening. Thank you for sharing this video. Please share. There is no point in us sitting here and having two of us talk, and if we do not share this knowledge. We have so many of our people in Africa who know these things, who are experts. And when we get an opportunity for someone like you to come and share what they think, I think everybody ought to consume. Again, it's the same thing as with our products. We don't want to listen to our people. We'd rather listen to others and not listen to our own when they give us the knowledge, the information. It is hard to swallow what we have learned here, what Dr. Bing-Pappoe has been telling us. It's really hard to swallow because it takes away the blame factor and it points at us. While the one finger is pointing there and saying, yes, we do have other factors that may make us not be the best of we are, but the other four are pointing back at us. We need to change our thoughts, our mindset, value what we have, and that's the only way forward. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
We'll talk again next week.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.